Good afternoon. Welcome to Project Cortex. Congratulations for those of you who figured out we only were able to change the name of the session recently because it would have been a dead giveaway if this had been in the session catalog a month ago. So thank you all for being here, for your support, for our first ever Ignite breakout session on Project Cortex. My name is Chris McNulty. I'm a senior product manager on the Microsoft 365 team.
And I'm Naomi Moneypenny, and I have the privilege of leading the product team for Project Cortex. And thank you so very much for staying late here. I really, really appreciate it.
You know, when we started on this journey nearly 2 years ago, and for those of us who've been working with SharePoint, obviously a much longer time, we began by investigating what it would take to reinvigorate ECM, a reboot of content services, if you will. So we're going to start by talking about that. Next, we'll turn our attention to some of the business challenges that we have heard on our journey. We've been very customer-driven at Microsoft, and we're really pleased to be able to share one of those customer stories with you today here live and in person with Simon Denton, Office Server and Services MVP, an application architect and civil engineer, is going to come up and join us for that discussion.
We're thrilled, really, to have you come on this journey with us. We really think about Project Cortex as being an amazing ability to create everything you've already had inside of Microsoft 365, take advantage of that, and then really taking it to the next level.
So let's just get started by grounding what we're doing in the core values that we've had for content services for the past several years. So just a quick recap of things that we have landed and delivered since Ignite of last year. First and foremost, we've crossed, as you know, the 100 million MAU threshold, 100 million commercial users on average in a month. So that's a fantastic threshold. You're allowed to clap. It's OK to clap. We've also landed a ton of document management features, including managing information at scale with bulk check-in, check-out, and approvals, more support for templates across libraries and pages, bringing unified file experiences together across SharePoint to Teams and to the rest of the Office suite. And as we announced yesterday, we now support 100 gigabyte file size. So we think those are, yep, that's all. You're allowed to clap for that too. Along with our core capabilities for information governance. And when you look at everything we've been able to bring out in Microsoft 365, hierarchical file plans, immutable record labels, label analytics, and more, we're really proud of the story that we're able to tell today, even before we get to this exciting next generation for core content services. And we pivot through that by taking a look at the availability of Microsoft Search. Microsoft Search provides a unified way for you to be able to find and ask questions to all the information across your information architecture and beyond. And you don't just have to take my word for it. One thing we're really proud to be able to talk about, this just broke late last week, is where we placed in the Gartner Content Services Magic Quadrant for 2019. So this is the 2017 quadrant. We are in the leaders quadrant, but sort of down there to the left. And in 2018, we had moved up, but there's a few players that have changed. And by 2019, this is where we are. So yes, that's. So you've heard from us. You've heard from analysts who've covered it. But it's really important for us to be on this journey with our customers and to let our customers tell this story in their own words.
Mott MacDonald are a global engineering management and development consultancy.
We're in the infrastructure business, so whether it be power or water or telecoms or transport, you've probably touched one of our projects whether you know it or not. Our mission really is to open opportunities with connected thinking.
Connected thinking is our approach for connecting content to people and people to content, enabling just-in-time information to allow projects and their teams to get the best value for their clients and for the business.
We have 47 practices globally, and what that does is ensure that people are sharing the knowledge between themselves and delivering that through to projects.
As an engineer at Mott MacDonald, you could be involved in 4 or 5 projects per given day.
Everybody in the company is part of a different knowledge community, or possibly several. It's sharing that knowledge throughout the business, no matter which section you're in.
We think knowledge sharing is going to change extensively over the next decade or so.
We find that search is only half the story. We have to do something to assist people, to guide people to find the information they need that's relevant to them. I'm really excited by Microsoft's vision for creating knowledge networks. It fits completely in with our strategy for knowledge management. The idea of connecting people to content, content to people, powered by Microsoft 365, is going to be a game changer for us.
So Simon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
It's been a really quick journey. It was less than 4 weeks ago that we were in your Birmingham office shooting that, so thank you very much for helping us with that.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about your role at Mott MacDonald?
Yes, so I'm the Productivity Application Architect, really long name, small job. I look after M365 at Mott MacDonald. Yes, my role is everything from Office, SharePoint, everything.
So, it's been really exciting learning about how Mott MacDonald views knowledge as an initiative that you're really driving forward. Can you talk a little bit about the value of knowledge at Mott MacDonald and how you see that moving forward?
That's very true. We don't create physical product. We are our product, and therefore the latent knowledge within every single engineer needs to be connected together to create an opportunity to deliver the best outcomes. And if you have a question and you only ask one person or the people that you only really get the solution from those few people. And what you need to be able to do is find the right person, the right piece of knowledge from experts dotted all across the globe who have the experience and knowledge. So that's what we're trying to do here, is unpick all of that and break those bubbles down.
And so it's really great to hear that. I love the way that you describe connected thinking and bringing content to people and people to content. You've been working with Microsoft on this journey since we launched our private preview steering group about 6 months ago. Could you talk a little about what that's been like, other than having to occasionally hear from me?
Well, it's not too bad. I tell you what, okay, so there's no money in my pocket. This has been a really good partnership. It has felt like we have been working together as one team, and so therefore, as we've given feedback, because in the past we've built something reasonably similar, we've scratched the surface. What Cortex is what we've built on steroids, I have to say. But it's been like a real partnership. We've given you feedback, you've gone away, you thought about it, we said, can you create these things? Yes, we can. It's been seamless. It's like we've been together as one. It's been great.
Fantastic. What are you most excited about that you've gotten to work with us in this journey? You've seen what we've announced. What are you really hopeful about exploring further?
I'm really happy that metadata is finally going to be king again, right? I think that's going to be such a winner. The second thing I'm really excited about, it's not just Delve V2, okay? This is just not like a few little cards in Delve. What I'm really excited about is we can fulfill our brand statement, creating opportunities through connected thinking, and we can power all that with technology. And I think that is what I'm really enthused about. And it's not, slideware. This thing's happening. It's in our build. We're using it, and it's brilliant.
Great. Simon, thank you so much.
No problem. Just Chris.
So there are real business opportunities that can be solved today. We're really excited about starting to explore these scenarios with companies like Mott MacDonald and with many of you here in this room, we hope. One of the bits of analysis we've done is looking at how much can be saved in the average company, a company of 10,000 people, if you reduce the time to effectiveness by just 1 week. When people start a new job, it takes them time to get up to speed. That company can realize a gain of nearly $9 million just by improving that for new hire onboarding. And we're really excited when we think about the far more prevalent problems of people changing roles. At Mott MacDonald, you heard about the number of projects that Claire has to touch in the course of a year. It's really important for her to be able to get up to speed quickly, and when she moves on to the next thing, be able to move freely and leave her expertise behind for the people who continue the project forward. So we really are excited about the possibilities that we have of unlocking the potential with Project Cortex. So, that having been said, Naomi? What is Project Cortex?
I'd love to be able to tell you, Chris. So let me tell you about Project Cortex. Hopefully it is the most exciting thing that we have done in Microsoft 365 for a long time. But it's always all about you. It really is about putting people at the center. And so we've got a list here in terms of understanding a bit more about empowering people and organizations. And we want to make sure that you understand the sort of the categories of the work that we're doing. This is a sort of a big, wide product from that perspective. So there's a lot in here, and it's very hard to cover all of it in our 45 minutes, but we'll do our best job that we can to give you an overview. When we think about it, first off, it's really about you as an end user. So you and all the experiences that you have inside of Microsoft 365, the way we're bringing those experiences to life, how we're highlighting topics and projects and understanding what you're working on so we can bring you relevant information and the flow of the work that you're doing. We also want to think about some of the core metadata services that are part of that too. And so we're bringing much more metadata experiences into the work that you do every day. So whether it's enterprise content types, if it's understanding how to query, search, filter, refine, all of those things through metadata, that's an important piece too. And then we want to be able to use your expertise in the best possible way so that we save you some time. We want to save time by suggesting things that you might want to add to your profile. So thinking about the expertise that you have, how you're mining that expertise, and how we can help your profile be more discoverable inside of your organization. And then we also want to look at how we're simplifying it from a human perspective too. Now, these other two categories that you see here are really around understanding how we can mine through all of the data that you have in Microsoft 365. But our ambition level is not just the content that you already have in Microsoft 365. It is so much bigger than that. It really is about understanding some of the great advancements we've had from Microsoft Search. If you heard the Search connectors announcements yesterday that we had, understanding that those new connectors are going into public preview, all of that can be used as that rich set of componentry that we'll bring in through the mining effort too. And so anything that we're mining from those existing systems, you'll be able to have access to that through the topics and all the pieces that we bring together with AI. The other piece of this is really to understand sort of these new destinations that we have. So we're going to create a couple of new hero destinations. One is around knowledge centers, and the other is around content centers, and really thinking about business processes and how those get automated. But we've heard very strongly from Simon and many of our other customers who've been on this journey with us since May to really understand that you want reusable components. You don't want another destination. In Microsoft, we already got tons of destinations. We got our own destinations. And so we want components. We want web parts that we can take and reuse in our own destinations, in our own ways to build our own experiences. So we're totally going to deliver those too and make sure that Cortex has all of that power, and you surface it and you choose where you're going to surface that power to. And then finally, around the managed metadata services and then thinking about security and compliance, all of these things come to life with a strong foundation. And we're really thinking about how we're extracting and classifying a lot of that information. We want to understand content, really truly understand that content. And so we're applying a whole bunch of new technologies to bring that to life. So whether it's forms, whether it's unstructured documents that we can use subject matter experts for, or whether it's really coming to bear with this is the information that you have already. So inside of images, inside of videos, how do we help unlock a lot of that too? And then understanding, again, how metadata plays a role in all of those pieces. But, of course, this is all built on Microsoft 365.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that we can't emphasize enough. We are not building a brand new platform that you're going to need to migrate to. We're not building tons of new experiences. But we're able to reach left to right across the suite to be able to invoke the best on top of our platform, doing things with security, doing things with compliance, doing things with search. We're really excited about the tie-up that we're going to be able to bring forward with Microsoft Information Protection. If you think about things like the auto-classification that we've been doing with MIP, we can now make those policies even more fine-grained because we're going to be able to extract key metadata to, for instance, tell you how much a contract is worth, because that may be a determinant of which policies you want to attach to it. And we're really focused on what the business outcomes. We're listening to customers. We really want to couch these in scenarios that make sense for you. It's great to have a tour of the technology, and it's great to have cool and awesome tech, and I love playing with this stuff, as we all do, but we're here to help make your organization smarter. We know there are competitive pressures to be able to upskill your workforces, and we're delighted to be able to take on some of those challenges. Naomi?
So this is just a quick chart here to show a little bit more about how we're really thinking about these areas coming together. If you think about traditionally in knowledge, how does knowledge get created inside of your organization? What is knowledge even to start off with? So we think about all of that information that you're ingesting inside of your organization, thinking about the processes that are coming in. So it could be anything like contracts processing, could be invoice processing, could be project proposals that are coming into your organization every single day. We want to be able to glean through that information and really think about how do we apply some of the existing technology we have, thinking about curation, how do we actually teach the AI to get better, and really help to turn that into knowledge. If we sift through all of that information, then we have a great chance of being able to extract the knowledge that's really valuable inside of your organization and to be able to up-level that to everybody inside of the organization if you so choose. Now, when we think about taking that to the next step, it's really about understanding how learning comes about. We've all seen those pyramids before where it's data, information, knowledge, wisdom, intergalactic something, I don't know after that, right? But it's really important there to have this sort of idea really of how do we turn this into something that's repeatable and learnable inside of your organization. One of the biggest pressures we have is to do more with people, right? You heard Mac talk about how it's really a people company. Even though they may do big construction projects and it's about heavy equipment and all those pieces, it's really about how do we bring the resources of people and the skills of people and bring them to bear in effective ways across the organization. So how do we make sure learning happens? Expertise identification, how do we curate that learning? And then finally, how do we think about how we can bring together all of the best practices in your organization so people can build on top of the work that other people have and then make sure that we're having learning as an organization, as a whole skill across your company. So we're really looking at how we can strengthen the sort of foundation here for metadata inside of Project Cortex. And I want to linger on this for a while, because you're going to hear the word metadata a lot, and I'm sorry for that, but it's also really, really important, okay? But allow me to geek out for just a second here. So we want to think about metadata as being coherent across Microsoft 365. If you've been in the SharePoint world for a long time, you know we have this thing called the Managed Metadata Service. It's been out there since SharePoint 2010. We're so sorry, we haven't done very much on it recently, but now we have, right? And so we're actually going to take a lot and really bring it to Microsoft 365 as a suite-wide service. And I really do mean that, as a suite-wide service. So whether I'm inside of Topics, inside of Teams, if I'm in Yammer, if I'm in Stream, if I'm in my Office documents, I'm in SharePoint, I'm in OneDrive, and all of the other places that you might have in Microsoft 365, then we want to have that same consistent experience across everywhere. We also think it's really important to think about enterprise content as well. And so enterprise content and how we're basing that on side of the terms that you have inside of your organization. So whether you've chosen to invest in metadata before or you've never done anything and you never intend to with metadata, we still want to help you manage those things better too. We also think about having that consistent tagging experience and how we can bring together automatic intelligence. So how do we help you to classify the information that you already have? How do we help you understand what's there? And then really bringing together all of the enterprise content types as well. Now, I know there's some fans of enterprise content type syndication and all the improvements that we're making as part of this too. And so you should really think about that, having consistent schema that's going across your whole organization, across Microsoft 365. So to that end, some announcements that we are making in the Managed Metadata Service, so very specific here. So we are modernizing the whole administration of the Managed Metadata Service. We think it's a really important piece of the puzzle to bring that all screaming and kicking into the world of 2020, and so really bringing those things together. And then, of course, we are also going to have a new enterprise content type gallery. So for the people who get excited about that, right, you know who you are. So we will have all those pieces too. And then we're also going to sort of think about how we take in information from the rest of the world from that perspective. So taxonomies exist in lots of different places. You might have managed metadata services in other places. We really want to think about how we're bringing those taxonomies into life and really how we're using industry standards to be able to do that. So regardless of whether you've sourced that taxonomy from a third party or whether it's something that you've built in-house, we'll have the ability to import that too. And then categorization and search really are coming together as part of this too. So we want to have term suggestions. We want to make sure that you have great controls over those suggestions, things like synonyms, putting all of those pieces together, all part of that managed metadata service. And then how we're adding published content types to libraries as well. And this means that in an end user experience, right, you as just a poor little user, right, hearing out there, being able to actually add in your enterprise content type straight from where you're actually doing the work every day. And then the last piece here is really thinking about content types that are applied to libraries. And those are libraries that are within a hub. So for example, of course, all of this works within the SharePoint architecture. So if I have my hub sites, I have things that are joined, all those sub-sites that are joined basically up into the hub. And then I can really use content types to cascade that, syndicate that, that content type across everything inside of a hub. And then, very importantly, the opposite way around, because sometimes you want to start with the enterprise content type and then view and assign it to a hub. Seems so obvious, doesn't it? And yet, we will actually do it. so, wonderful. All right, let's talk a little bit about knowledge management and think about those different areas too. So let me start with a demo, because it's been a while since we had a demo. So we should do that. Let me see if I can switch to number 7, 8. There we go. Awesome. Yay. Okay. It was a wonderful thing when it works. Okay, so I am inside of Outlook, and Outlook is an important piece of our days. And oftentimes, I get these kind of words inside of my Outlook here. In this case, it's an acronym that I don't understand. So when I hover over that, this has been highlighted for me automatically. Notice it's actually the first instance of the word core that's being highlighted as part of this here. It's not every single one. We don't want to litter the whole page with highlights and things in your email, because you're just trying to read your email and get your work done. But we want to be able to highlight that information there. If I click through here, I'll actually see that I have a great set of acronyms here. I can actually see the other acronyms that are across my organization. And I can also see the summary of what Project Core is all about. And I can check out the people and the resources and the related topics as well. And so I get all of that great information right here. And so when I go through to sort of looking at other pages where I might have this functionality, so in this case, you can see again, I'm in a SharePoint news article, and as part of that news article, again, I get these highlights available to me, all these different places. Again, notice that we're only showing the first mention of those things, right? We're not highlighting everything on the page, using some intelligence there to help with that. And you'll see I get some other commands here. I get follow, I can also suggest and edit, because you can edit some of these topic pages as well. Now, when I click through here, what's important is that I am seeing an AI-generated page, right? A person can go in and curate this, but I want to make sure you understand the first cut of this page is computers doing what computers do best, which is mining through content and figuring it out and surfacing it up to people so that you can do what you do best, which is to curate, create, and content on top of it. And so when you look through here, we see people who've been mined as part of this, and I see resources as well. Now, in that contribution area here for people, so for example, you can check out that people have been added by other folks here. I can also check out Nestor's profile, for example, and I can see that he's got a couple of expertise areas. So here's one that says Mark 8, so I can actually click through, and I get that nice nested experience just the way I would expect it to work, hopefully. And so see all of those pieces coming together. And I can check out, I can understand a little bit about Mark 8 and see those areas too. Now, notice on these row of folks here, it actually says they contributed to these different resources. And what's important about this piece is that we're actually doing that AI mining based on the content, again, inside of your knowledge network. And so looking through those contributions, it's found these and identified these people based on the work that they're already doing. It means we're using the same security permissions as Chris was just mentioning about. The same security things that happen inside of Microsoft 365 is what we're mining through. And then you can see here we've got some folks that have been added here. We've also got some resources that are stream videos. We've got a Power BI dashboard that we're linking out to. And we can also see some other ones that have been discovered by the technology too. And all of those pieces really come together because we've got the best of both curation and AI mining as part of it. And then, of course, my favorite feature altogether, which is really that we can show this in the context of what this topic does. Because as people, a lot of us are very visual. We need to understand how things connect together, and that's half of the work, it seems like, in big companies these days, right? Just understanding how this part connects to this part. And so how do I discover what's useful to me across my organization? Here's a great way to be able to start at a certain point and then be able to explore further on as part of that too. And then, of course, we have the communities of practice, the great work that Yammer has been doing, the year of Yammer, and all the pieces coming together here. So, just saying. And all those pieces coming together that really help us to get questions and answers so I can learn directly from a community too. Now, when we think about this, we want to create new knowledge centers as well. So out of the box, you will get a knowledge center. You can choose to use it or not use it, and it will have all those reusable components that we talked about. We want to think about how we help to define what's useful, what's distinctive in this area. And so we've actually spent a lot of time working through what are the key features and functionality that people would like. So in this case, you can see here a gallery of web parts. Now, and then you can see some web parts here, so things like trending topics within your organization, how to help find experts inside of your company, and then thinking about expertise answers, and most importantly, how we understand your contributions inside of the knowledge network too. Because it's an important piece of like knowledge sharing. How do I help understand what it is you've contributed to as part of this? And so understanding those pieces, you'll be able to add those as web parts into your own portals, destinations, pages that you've already built, all of those pieces coming together. So I'm very excited about all of those different areas. So I can transition over here, and we'll go back to slide 5, wherever it is.
Down here.
Looking, thank you. So the only part of equipment I don't know how to use is the switcher. So, all right, so let me talk a little bit through sort of the knowledge network itself and how it works. And so here's that knowledge map that I'm so fond of, and sort of thinking about how that gets built out. So I wanted to explain a little bit in terms of the resources and the things that we're mining here. So we have here files, the content, the activities that are going on. We're actually mining through all of that content that you have inside of Microsoft 365, again, obeying all of the permissions that are on the resources themselves. And by resource, I mean the PowerPoint document, the Word documents, all of those, the site pages, all of the things that we're mining through. We're taking that same security permissioning model, and then we're understanding a lot of the signals and edges that come together as part of it. And as we explore those, we can actually make relationships between here. We can actually understand a little bit more about the acronyms and how they're being defined, and we're actually doing a lot of systematic inferencing behind the scenes, as well as a neural network technology on top of this to actually help make meaning of those things too. So there's a lot more detail that we can go into in the knowledge mining. There is another session on tomorrow afternoon that CJ will be leading, and she'll go into a lot more detail on those pieces too. Now, if you think about it, how do we help to make inferences in terms of which projects are associated with which people, and then how are these things connected? So it's great that you can mine through all of the content and the network that I have inside of the Microsoft Graph, but then how do I really take it to the next level and say, hey, how do I make this connection between this project and this expertise area and this other area altogether? And really what we're thinking about here is to really make patterns across your organization to understand what people are working with and understand where there's actually little sort of statements that could be useful, and making a mapping essentially between those two areas. And so it's kind of a really interesting way to use a neural network technology to help you understand how things that look similar inside of your organization that you might not have otherwise found, but because you have access to that content, you're able to see and understand a little bit more about the context of the work that's happening. So it's an important piece too, and I understand like the controls of all of this. So I talked already a lot about security and the compliance and the permissions, and I just want to sort of reiterate it one more time. When we think about the mining itself, so that means the fundamentals of what we're going through in the Microsoft Graph and looking through all of that content, we really think about these different areas and sort of having controls of this. And this is both when you're getting started and as you're maintaining a lot of the work that you're doing inside of the knowledge network. So you can choose, like, what should be mined, right? If you want to just start off with a trustworthy set of sites, for example, in your organization, because you're like, well, I'm not really sure if the permissions are right everywhere, and I'm not really ready for that, and say, okay, can you just have a group of sites that I can mine first and get the information from there, and then we'll see how things go. And then we also want to think about how we're seeding that with taxonomy, making sure that we're understanding any data that you already have. And maybe there's even a list of projects that you might have inside of your organization, like allowing something, maybe you want to block something. If it's a super secret project, put all those things together. And then making sure that all of the search settings are also obeyed. So these are all lessons. These are great lessons that we've had from Delve. It's something I think about every single day, just reinforcing that, that we will not have the same kind of scenarios happening there too. Okay, let's move on. Topic discovery. So you can exclude topics, as I mentioned. You can also ignore topics that have a high business impact. Maybe you have something super secret inside of your organization. And then we want to make sure that we're able to show you anything we think is a candidate topic and bring those to life as well. So you can choose if you have knowledge managers in your organization, if you have someone who just wants to review it for the first time when it first starts mining. We want to give you controls and make you feel comfortable about all of these pieces too. And then on topics themselves, so this is really when human curation comes into play. So use subject matter experts. Hopefully you understand the topics you're working with every day. We're able to actually bring that together for you and then ask you to sort of give some questions and answers of like, yes, this is a real topic. Do you want to curate it further? We give you some ideas to reject this if it's not the right context if we're showing something. And then importantly, being able to create your own topics should you wish to, and then merge topics together, because we know there's going to be a lot of things that are very similar inside of an organization. Acronyms are a part of that, but there will be multiple projects that might seem like they should just merge into one thing. And then, of course, we want to be able to curate those with crowdsource and appropriate controls too. Okay, that's enough on the knowledge network piece. So I'm going to transition and talk about some of the business process efficiencies.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I find most magical about the work Naomi's team has done is they've taken a number of different classification technologies that use AI, and they're bringing them into the mainstream. So the ways that we tag things inside of Project Cortex, you can still do it manually. We're including automatic object detection. So when we see an image, when we see characters inside of an image, we're plugging into a database of thousands of objects so we can automatically add tags based on what we see there. We're including forms processing, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. When you have standardized documents, how do I mine those for metadata? And then we're including file classification and entity extraction. Naomi's going to show you that in a minute. How do we see it? If we see some bit of content that we've never seen the type of it before, we can still infer an awful lot about that by using the right machine teaching rules. So let's start by taking a look at forms processing. The core way that we're handling forms processing is inside of AI Builder. And so in the interest of time, I am going to jump forward here. My machine has locked. There we go. I'm on 7. And so we're going to begin with the amazing skill I have demonstrated through years of SharePoint expertise of uploading a file to a library. You can clap for that, Aves, that kind of crowd. And we can see there's a number of custom metadata fields that are defined on this. Behind the scenes, Cortex is actually processing this content. So let me walk you very quickly to what's going on behind the scenes. So the typical way that this works is we start by creating a document library. So we can come here, build a new library for purchase orders, plain vanilla library. Our next step is to invoke AI Builder to build a custom model. So inside AI Builder, we're going to need to start with a few documents to train it. It said 5+. On Thursday night when I was building this demo, I was a little overambitious, and I decided to grab 12, but it still works. So we upload 12 sample purchase orders there. The system brings them in. It processes them inside of AI Builder, looking for the patterns that are common across those. Once it finishes processing and analyzing those documents, I can now go in and teach AI Builder how to recognize metadata in these documents. So you can see the purchase order here on the screen. Since it's a purchase order, who we're buying it from seems pretty important. So I'm going to tag that field. And when we're going to be doing the purchase order is also another bit of metadata I want to pull out. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to go jump ahead and tag all the rest. And then once that's up, I can say, these are the fields that I want to save. I'm going to save the model, and now it's time for me to train it. So because it's AI, it has to apply those rules to the set of training documents that I gave it. When it finishes the training, I now have a model that I can publish. Publishing makes this available in other applications. I can invoke it through APIs, but we don't want people to have to code. We want to bring this technology into the mainstream. So we're going to invoke Flow. We're shipping a flow that is pre-built for you. It's a template. All you need to do is set it up once. The flow comes up pre-configured. It understands where your model is. It understands where your data is. And when I deploy the flow, it will jump back into my library and upload the correct column definitions there and know to be on the lookout for as content comes in or is being modified out there. So when I go and I grab a bunch of content right here, lo and behold, it will derive all of the metadata. So let's just take a look at what happened back in my other demo. And by now, we should see that the file that I just uploaded before has been fully recognized. So here's the file I uploaded live, and lo and behold, over here on the right, all of the metadata has been pulled out and extracted so I can use it for workflow, for search, for compliance, and to visualize the data. What do we think of that? So, yes.
So that's awesome. Thank you, Chris. So we want to sort of explain a little bit about what these three different technologies are. So you just saw forms processing with AI Builder, and it's a great technology to really use on very structured information where you have kind of the same template every single day, and maybe you have the same forms coming in, could be government forms, could be things like mortgage processing, all of that kind of stuff. Now, there's a whole set of information that we store in SharePoint, which is really around unstructured documents, right? So it's the legal agreements, it could be contracts, it could be manuals, those things that are really hard actually to process inside of your organization and require a lot of knowledge work. And for that, we have a brand new approach. It's brand new from Microsoft Research. It's now an Azure Lewis service, and it's called machine teaching. And I want to spend just a second to explain what machine teaching is. It is not machine learning. I just want to be very, very clear about that. So machine teaching is really around you teaching the machine something that you would, the same way you would explain it to a person. So if I was explaining to a person, I might give all kinds of clues like navigation and context around what something is. And we really truly believe at Microsoft that machine teaching, anything you could teach to a person, you should be able to teach to a machine. And it really is a whole new direction for where we're going. And you can think about it as a great complement for machine learning. Machine learning is really about, I look through all this big data, I scan for insights inside of it, and I try to find information that's really valuable as part of it. But we know that sometimes it really does take people to be able to do those things. And so we want to be able to teach a whole team of experts to teach around what's important, for example, inside of a business agreement or a contract. And so this is really where machine teaching comes to bear. The wonderful thing about the machine teaching is that the models that you create are something that can be part of your organization knowledge as well. So you think about organizational networks, you think about the whole knowledge network that you're creating. Right now, you encapsulate that knowledge in terms of content and wisdom that's inside of people's heads. So you have documents and videos and all that great stuff. Wouldn't it be even more amazing if you could create some of that knowledge that you have in people's heads and the way that they think about and process the information and encode it into models that you reuse inside of your organization? And that is just a little bit of the potential of what we have with machine teaching. So I'm going to give you a quick example of the experience and how this works. And I'll sort of give you a simple example of how this works because we're going to use recipes. And the reason we're using recipes is because it's something that everybody is familiar with, right? I'll give you a simple example, and then you can come to Sean Squires' session on Thursday morning, and he will show you a great example with some HR benefit documents. So all of those pieces. So I want to first off create a model, and I can choose to actually think about creating an extractor. So let me give the extractor a name. In this case, it's a food product that I'm going to be using. And so I want to be able to extract food products from all of these different recipes. And so I can go ahead and add the content inside of my document libraries. I've been using SharePoint for a while, so I'll skip that step.
Yep.
And then I'll be able to upload the model files that I want to use as well. And this is not the same way as in machine learning, again, with that sort of 5 areas that we have to upload. We can use as many or as few files as you choose to as part of machine teaching. And so in this case, we can go through and say, hey, I'm going to extract what I need out of here. So I'm going to label some of the food products. So I've got Jell-O that's coming through here. I'm going to go through and label some of these files. And this is a little bit of a manual effort. I don't dispute this, to go through and look for what's important as part of these documents. And you can see I'm sort of teaching the machine what to look for. And so I go through, I've labeled my documents. I'm then able to review these things and help to add some attribute explanations as part of this. So I can give my explanation a name, whatever I choose to in this case. And you'll see here that I'm able to extract both a phrase list of things that it should be looking for, but I can also look for things like are in proximity to it. And the reason for this is oftentimes that our unstructured content, the things that actually tell you what's going on are the words that come before it or after it or somewhere near it. So a great example of this is, if I think about these food products here, this is a good example of maybe I have a very unstructured recipe. I haven't listed out a whole bunch of ingredients, but I can tell from the words and the instructions that come before and after it that it's something that's mentioning an ingredient in the middle. And that's the same way as you would teach a person, right? If I was trying to teach you the difference between a chair and a table, even though both of these things have 4 legs and a flat surface to them, you'd say, look for the back. If you see a back, it's a chair. If you don't see a back, it's a table, right? But it's actually a really hard problem in machine learning to do. You can do it through computer vision, you can do lots of areas, but really thinking about how you do this with business agreements and unstructured content and knowledge-based content that we work with every day is an important piece. So in this case, I'm going to have a phrase list. I'm going to look for those phrases inside of my documents. I'm going to do some analysis here, and I can continue to add explanations explanations as part of this. And so the more explanations I add, the more I'm able to teach those machines. Now remember, all of these explanations can be added by the people who are actually part of the organization. So think about having your procurement specialist, a legal person, all of those areas. And then once I've done this, I'm able to train my model and actually publish it and then have it be through the metadata services, just the same way as Chris showed you, and then kick off things like an approval process as part of it too. So that's I'm going to show on machine teaching. And we'll flip back to the slides here. And talk through a little bit on analytics. Now, all of this stuff is really amazing if we think about the content inside of your organization. So I can process all that stuff. We're saving you time. We're saving you money. We've got all this business process stuff coming in. All of that ingested files basically coming in as part of your knowledge network. We're mining through all of that content to find the topics and the projects and the skills that are important inside of your organization. How do we help then analyze a lot of that content too? So we're going to do some solution starters out of the box for the content center, and those pieces I'll show in just a second. And then we're even thinking about analytics around the managed metadata service, so you can improve some of the tagging efficiency as well. And then finally, we're really looking at how we can help recognize some of the contributions that you have in the knowledge network. Now, this is an example of one of those solution accelerators that will come out of the box. We'll have it available on the Resource Center, which will give you the address at the end. And this is a great example. This was built by one of our MVPs out at Marquee Insights. And so they're able to basically put together a content center that's a Power BI dashboard that helps analyze the content that's being processed, could be through forms processing or machine teaching, and then to help you understand the throughput of that, and then be able to identify things like cost savings. And this is a customizable model here. So this is something that you'll easily be able to get a hold of, put in your own values for what you think is the cost savings, and then it will help to accrue that. We think it's important that you're able to monitor how effective these business processes are going through your organization. Now, another piece on the analytics side is really understanding your enterprise tags. How do we make sure that you're using the right terms across your organization, and how are we fundamentally measuring those things happening across Microsoft 365? So we want to think about how we're helping you to recommend insights and actions that you want to take, and then making sure that you have access to those terms and have those available to your whole organization. Okay, it's a fast session, isn't it?
Fast session. We were talking about this before. The title of this session is What's New and What's Next. Technically, everything
is next. Yeah, exactly. So that's all good. So what will we have available soon? And talk a little bit about the roadmap. So you heard a lot of the great news that we had. Jeff Teeper talked about it yesterday in the SharePoint session as well, in terms of Microsoft Search and the great extensibility that Karem and his team are delivering. And so we want to make sure that you understand the search extensibility pages are there, the content connectors that are coming into Microsoft Search, and using all of those components. This is not something where Cortex is off by its side. Remember that we are fundamentally built on Microsoft 365, and our goal is to take that solution and take all of the pieces that are Microsoft 365 are delivering, and again, supercharge it even more. And so the managed metadata service is expanding out. Term sets are now increased to 1 million per term set. Woo-hoo! So I'm excited about this. And then when we think about where we're going next year, really we'll have the first version of Project Cortex will be available in the first half of next year. We're doing extensive new services on top of that for the managed metadata service. And then we're really looking at how we bring in all of that content understanding too. And then we have extensive pieces around search and SharePoint and OneDrive, and all of those pieces coming live. And then you can see some of the great things that we're thinking more about. And we obviously want your input as part of this too. Thinking about where we have a content centers, new destinations that you might want, and then thinking about how we take in third-party extensibility and making sure that we're enabling all of our great content services partners as part of this too.
We are so excited to be embarking on this journey. This week at Ignite for us is really the middle of the beginning. I want to emphasize, Project Cortex is not alone. There are other elements to the knowledge journey that we're embarking on. Capabilities coming in from places like Yammer and from Microsoft and from Microsoft Search, from Stream and from Workplace Analytics. All of these things are real solutions coming together to solve real problems. We are already working with customers, and we're really proud to be able to share that this product will move into general availability in the first half of next year. Now, the best way to stay connected with us through that journey is to follow this URL for Project Cortex. That's the only place you need to go to find out, as we have more information, as we have additional resources, white papers, training, videos, demos, and more, they'll all be collected there. And it's the place where you can come if you're a customer and want more information to register for that or to join the private preview. We will take the applications there on that site as well. So I'll put this up. In addition, we still have material available on content services, those classic use cases. That's a great place to go for some more information. I'll leave this up for another few seconds while people are snapshotting it. 3, 2, 1. Fair warning. And last, we have a number of sessions throughout the week here. So this is, like I said, this is the middle of the beginning. There are many sessions. We have Sean's session coming up on Thursday. We have CJ's session coming up tomorrow afternoon. You're doing a Microsoft Mechanics video. And if you miss any of those sessions, we'll be linking to all of those on the Resource Center as well. So that having been said, we have 38 seconds for questions. So we have time for one question before we officially close. Of course, Naomi and I will be sticking around. Thank you very much.